The Sword of Attila, also called the Sword of Mars or Sword of God, was the legendary weapon carried by Attila the Hun. The Roman historian Jordanus, quoting the work of the historian Priscus, gave the story of its origin. When a certain shepherd beheld one heifer of his flock limping and could find no cause for this wound, he anxiously followed the trail of blood and at length came to a sword it had unwittingly trampled while nibbling the grass. He dug it up and took it straight to Attila. He rejoiced at this gift and, being ambitious, thought he had been appointed ruler of the whole world, and that through the sword of Mars supremacy in all wars was assured to him. The use of Mars here is due to the Interpretatio Romana of Priscus. However, as the Huns would not have adopted the names of Roman deities, the more likely name used by the Huns would have been the more generic Sword of the War God. Historical sources from the Han dynasty tell us that the Asian Huns had one god, Chengli, which in Altaic languages is pronounced Tengri. Hungarian legends refer to it simply as Arizona Istankaja, the Sword of God. Priscus's description is also notable for describing how Attila used it as both a military weapon and a symbol of divine favor, which may have contributed to his reputation as the scourge of God, a divinely appointed punisher. As historian Edward Gibbon elaborated, the vigor with which Attila wielded the Sword of Mars convinced the world that it had been reserved alone for his invincible arm. Quote, "In this way it became somewhat of a scepter as well, representing Attila's right to rulership." In the 11th century, some 500 years after the death of Attila, a sword allegedly belonging to him surfaced according to Lambert of Hesfeld, who attributed its provenance to the recently established Arpad kings of Hungary, who in turn appropriated the cult of Attila and linked their claimed descent from him with the right to rule. Johann Pastorius detailed the history of the sword as having been given by the Queen Mother of King Solomon of Hungary to Otho, Duke of Bavaria, who had urged the emperor to reinstate Solomon's possessions. Otho had given it to Dedues, younger son of the Margrave Dedues. The king received it after his death, giving it to the royal councillor Leopold de Misburg, whose death, it was asserted by partisans of his rival, Otho, had been a divine judgment. The occasion of Leopold's unfortunate death was impalement upon his own sword after falling from his horse. There is no evidence to substantiate these medieval claims of its origin with Attila. The sword, now in the Kunsthistorisches Museum of Vienna as part of the Habsburg Schatzkammer, in fact appears to be from the early 10th century and possibly Hungarian. The real historical events of the discovery of this sword will probably remain unknown. More information about the possible origin of the sword comes from the Miholjanek locality finding. Before this legend had been regarded, this sword was believed to be Joias, the sword of Charlemagne.